Okay. It's 3:25 and I'd like to call the meeting to order and see most of our commissioners here, so we'll begin with the roll call. Commissioners, after we call your name, please reply here and President confirm that you can see and hear me. We'll begin with Commissioner Fair.
Present, I can see and hear you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hughes.
Present, I can see and hear you.
Thank you. Commissioner Ponce. Commissioner Rubin.
Present, I can see and hear you.
All right, Commissioner Ponce. Come back to her. We'll begin with the statement. In 2020, Governor Pritzker signed Public Act 101-0640, making certain amendments to the Open Meetings Act so that we, along with other boards and commissions, can continue to host virtual meetings during the COVID-19 public health emergency, provided that certain conditions are met. One of those conditions is that Chairman Wong of the Commission on Chicago Landmarks determines that an in-person meeting of the Commission on Chicago Landmarks and its Permit Review Committee are not practical or prudent. Chairman Wong has determined pursuant to Section 7E2 of the Open Meetings Act that an in-person meeting of this Commission on Chicago Landmarks and its Permit Review Committee is not practical or prudent. He has also determined that pursuant to Section 75, that because of the disaster as declared by the governor, it is unfeasible for at least one member of the Commission on Chicago Landmarks or its chief administrative officer or its chief legal officer to be physically present at the meeting place for either meeting, in as much as there is no physical meeting place. Pursuant to a resolution adopted by the Commission on Chicago Landmarks on June 4th, 2020, regarding the chairman's emergency rulemaking powers, Chairman Wong issued emergency rules governing the conduct of remote public commission meetings and provisions for remote public participation effective February 18th, 2022. These rules are posted on the commission's website. In line with these emergency rules, today's regular meeting, Permit Review Committee meeting, is a virtual meeting being simulcast to the general public via live streaming. Permit review committees have been held virtually since May of 2020. Meetings are structured to minimize the chances for technical difficulties. Members of the general public who have been encouraged to submit written statements in advance of the meeting, and these have been posted on the commission's website and are available for public view during the virtual meeting at www.chicago.gov/ccl. Per the emergency rules, verbal statements by the general public for all agenda items will take place at the beginning of the meeting. So all those wishing to speak at today's meeting should be signed in the Zoom meeting at this time. Before we hear staff presentations on the agenda items and ask to hear from owners or applicants and their teams, we will open the floor to members of the general public who wish to comment about the items to be heard on today's agenda. Members of the public wishing to comment should use the raise hand function of Zoom to indicate that they wish to speak. Members of the public not using a smartphone or computer and instead using a phone, phoning in to the meeting should press *9 to activate the raise hand function and to the same to deactivate it. I, the meeting facilitator, will call out the names of one by one and unmute those people. Once unmuted, speakers should give their full name and organization. If any they represent, each speaker will be allocated 3 minutes to speak. Once all members of the general public wishing to make a comment have been given the opportunity to do so, we will go through the agenda. I would ask that owners and applicants and their representatives, as well as aldermen, wait to speak until after staff presentations have been made on their agenda item. And like to go through the agenda to allow for public comment at this time. There are 5 agenda items. The first agenda item is the project at 410 South Michigan, the Fine Arts Building. Are there any members of the general public wishing to speak on this item? I see one. Mr. Ward Miller.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Ward Miller with Preservation Chicago. We were speaking on item number 1, the Fine Arts Building located at 410 South Michigan Avenue. And we're in support of, obviously, ADA accessibility to these amazing historic buildings. And we do know that the Landmark staff will do a fabulous job of making sure that this matches. But we just wanted to, again, note our concern, voice our concern about what this may look like as we're sort of working in a little bit of a vacuum. We're speaking before the presentation is made, but just wanted to encourage that these cast iron storefronts on Chicago's Michigan Avenue, the Michigan Avenue Boulevard District, and the Cliff, as we know it, is really compatible and also allows for accessibility for ADA issues, which is so very important to us. And then also wanted to just mention, I believe the same thing for item number 2, 919 North Michigan Avenue, the Palmolive building. We are always concerned about any new features that are added to these structures. And I know this incredible commission staff will mitigate this so that these are not impacting the actual historic components and historic features of the building. But just wanted to mention that we are in support of item number 1 and 2, but just our general concerns that the ultimate care be given to these projects. And I know that's the case, but I think we want to be on record as saying this is really important to all of us in the architecture and preservation communities. These are stellar buildings, and we welcome their reuse when necessary and modification when also necessary, but really want to continue to emphasize that it's so important that these conditions all match original features. So thank you for that the opportunity to speak today, and we'll stay on the line and listen to the actual proposal. Thank you so much. And hoping that we'll see you next month, perhaps in person in May, and looking forward to that time. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and Commissioner members.
Thank you so much, Mr. Miller. Are there any other members of the general public wishing to speak on item number 1? Seeing none, we'll move to the second item on the agenda, which is the project. The project at 919 North Michigan Avenue, the Palmolive building. Are there any members of the general public wishing to speak on this item? I know Mr. Miller already made a statement. Seeing none, we'll move to the third item on the agenda, which is the project at 1050 West Wilson in the Uptown Square District. Are there any members of the general public wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll move to item number 4. The fourth item on the agenda is the project at 1046 North Wood in the East Village District. Are there any members of the general public wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, item number 5, the fifth item on the agenda is the project at 2052 North Orleans in the Mid-North District. Are there any members of the general public wishing to speak on this item? I see one. Is it Mr. Lyons?
Yes, sir. Adam Lyons, architect.
Okay. Are you speaking on agenda item number 5?
Yes, I am, sir.
Are you
Yes.
part of the project presentation, or are you making a?
No, I'm not part of the presentation. I'm just here for additional information as the board may request or need at its time.
Okay. Great. Well, we'll hear from you at that project then. This is the public comment period. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I believe that is all the general members of the general public who have indicated they wish to speak on the agenda items for today. And this concludes the public comment portion of the meeting, and we will now go through the agenda. The agenda, which will begin with approval of the minutes from our previous meeting, which was March 9th. Do we have a motion, commissioners, to approve the minutes from March 9th?
So
So
moved.
moved.
I'll let Commissioner Ponce have it.
So moved, Commissioner Ponce.
Commissioner Ponce has made a motion.
Seconded, Commissioner Fair.
Commissioner Fair has seconded, and we'll do the roll call. Commissioner Hughes?
Yes, approved.
Yes. Commissioner Rubin?
Yes.
All right. Thank you all. I'm a yes. The motion carries unanimously, and the minutes will be posted on the website, the Commission's website, and we'll begin with our first project, which is 410 South Michigan, the 42nd Ward, Alderman Riley Fine Arts Building, and we are looking at the proposed replacement of existing cast iron storefront to match historic condition and allow for new accessible entrances. And Emily Barton has the presentation. Hi, Emily.
Hi, thank you. So in addition to being included in the historic Michigan Avenue District, the Fine Arts Building is also individually designated. In celebration of the building's 125th anniversary, this proposal is for the modification of the existing storefront to address condition issues and code and accessibility concerns. The applicant is also proposing restoration and replacement of the bronze theater frames on either side of the main entrances. So the current retail storefronts in bays 2 through 4 date back generally to the 1897 adaptive reuse in its conversion of the original 1885 manufacturing building. In plan, the storefront in 1885 was located behind the 2 polished granite columns in its entirety. In 1897, it was moved forward to the property line, and based off of images that we have, historic images, it shows a larger retail window with a single upper transom and no lower transom. And the columns in the middle were freestanding at this point. By 1903, the 1897 condition was modified to add a second lower transom, dividing the original glass into a second lower 4.5-foot transom and the original 7-foot 4-inch light. As uses for the buildings changed, access to the individual storefront bays became more of a priority. A 1913 photo shows another modification with the addition of 4 7-foot tall doors angling back from the storefront along the property line, engaging with and wrapping the granite columns in a partial classical cornice with filigree. This is the current configuration still in use today, although the slanted doors do not meet code or accessibility requirements. So the applicant is proposing to remove these non-original modifications to allow the stone columns to once again be freestanding per the 1897 design. This will require the removal of the existing storefront, including the historic and non-historic cast iron mullions. So the applicants provided a condition assessment explaining that the subject entries are an example of an early method of storefront framing consisting primarily of exterior cast iron and interior wood members. Due in part to the cobbled nature of this storefront, the structural capacity is limited, overspanned, and lacks the necessary stiffness to support the glass as was originally intended. They further say that it's reasonable to conclude that the renovations of adding that second transom were likely intended to address these conditions. Examples include reducing the size of openings, redirecting loads to adjacent framing, and strengthening and stiffening random horizontal members. They believe that the existing hybrid structure cannot be supplemented or repaired, and are proposing a new storefront assembly with a custom reproduction of the 4-inch rope casting at the perimeter and lower transom. These new mullions will take the place of the existing ones, which upon removal would further deteriorate and could become unusable. Furthermore, by reproducing the mullions in aluminum, they will be using the same metal as the new storefront system itself. And if a new aluminum system was implemented and the cast iron mullions managed to somehow be reinstalled, a metallurgic reaction could occur, corroding the system further and creating structural and aesthetic issues. Because of the condition of the historic mullions and storefront and the exact match of the reproduced mullions, staff does not believe that this will be an adverse effect to the building and recommend approval as proposed. New accessible doors are proposed at the south and north ends of the new storefront, and they will be inset so as they don't open onto the sidewalk. The other main change to the storefront will be to the glazing. Because of structural concerns with using 12-foot by 12-foot panes of glass, the applicant is proposing to use 2 panes of glass with a butt joint, which you can see in the elevation boxed out in red, to simulate the appearance of one large pane. Structural silicone will be used in order to minimize the visibility with the aluminum framing behind. The committee has approved structural silicone in lieu of large panes of glass before, such as in 2017 for the Johnson Publishing Building. Because this design will be replicating the 1897 storefronts, staff recommends approval as proposed. Storefront details and finish samples should be submitted with the permit application. No formal signage proposal has been received, and so at this point, no signage is approved. The main building entrances were originally flanked with bronze poster frames. The south frames are still in existence, but the north frames were replaced with non-historic aluminum sometime in the 50s. The applicant proposes to restore the historic south frames, adding internal weather protection and locking capabilities. And then the north frames will be replaced with the reproduced frame matching the historic south ones. All frames are proposed to be illuminated with a custom bent bronze overhang that will contain LED strip lighting for uplighting and downlighting. And staff recommends approval of this as well. So if you have any questions for me, I'm here. I believe we also have representatives from ownership and the architect here.
Thank you so much, Emily. Any questions for Emily before we, Commissioner Fair?
Yeah, hey, Emily, thanks for the presentation. Question about just the modification to the storefront. There's obviously a significant patina, the rest of the facade and the existing metal that's there. I'm assuming they're going to have to submit, materials as typical to your team to review if this, moves forward. But just curious, what requirements have been expressed already about, that finish going to aluminum in lieu of the steel?
So I think that might actually be better answered by the architect. But my understanding would be that we would try and match the patina of all of the windows above and the filigree above the doors on either side.
I'm happy to
Thank you.
defer that to the architect as well.
Sure. Emily, good afternoon. This is Len Karofsky with Getch
Hi.
Partners. The existing cast iron has a multitude of coats of paint on it. I think our intent long-term before we proceed into fabrication is to do some further research and do some color microscopy on that existing paint finish to both determine what it was and with the intent that both the new cast members and the aluminum system match that in color.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Great. Thank you for that clarification. Well, I guess, do we, from the architect, do you have anything else to say about this one? Mr. Karofsky?
The building has a magnificent cultural and historic heritage to it. I think the storefronts, as originally built in 1897, were a very innovative system, perhaps ahead of its time, both in the structural framing and in the glass sizing. And I think those, perhaps again, ahead of its time, turned out to be problems. The changes that happened over time attempted to mitigate this, but I think there is still some propensity of the glass to continue breaking. So I think our intent is both to address the structural concerns, stiffen it, celebrate the original glass size, bringing it back to it as close as possible, and at the same time, providing both dedicated entrances and entrances that are ADA accessible. I think that's the full extent of my comments, but it's a magnificent building that it's been just a true pleasure to delve into its history.
Thank you very much for that. Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Fair?
Yeah, I've got a follow-up question, and I wonder if it's possible to jump to there's, I think, an elevation of the proposed, Michigan Avenue. Yeah, this one here. And, obviously, getting the accessible doors there is huge. I mean, it's required for the space to be operable. I guess what jumped out to me when I first saw this elevation is just, from this view, the doors themselves kind of break up that cadence that the original storefront has. And in a perfect world, we can make that disappear somehow and really, have the doors and then also, keep the rhythm of kind of the upper mullions that are original to the building kind of in place. So, I'm just curious, Lynn, if you could talk a little bit about the thinking on that. I mean, obviously there's, the code dimensions that are required for the door, but just wondering, without knowing what the dimension of that, light of glass is and width, just what some other options may be if that was something that you all kicked around when you were, kind of devising this design.
Yeah, this entrance is kind of a very interesting one. It was a very large glass sizes, very transparent. But there are also some compromises made in the original design. Those original retailers going back to 1897 had no direct entrance off of Michigan Avenue. They were forced to go in either one or the other of the arched main building entrances. And I think they realized that this wasn't going to work for an average retailer even in the early 1900s. That's where they cobbled together the little beveled pieces of glass that go behind the columns and created those entrances. So it's an entrance of a door that's, I think, 2'7", 2'8" wide, a vestibule that you can get one body to stand in, obviously, and those doors swung out over the street. I think we kind of jumped forward and kind of said, we want to get back as much to the original transparency, the maximizing the original glass sizes, but provide the kind of both retail entrances that retailers are going to demand, direct entrances, and providing an accessibility. And I think the two largest bays are bays 2 and 4, left and right. And in some ways, we were using what was originally there was a glass size that was approaching 17 feet in width by 12 foot in height. They were making those pieces of glass down in Kokomo, Indiana with PPG back in the late 1800s. But they're huge pieces of glass. Our other assigned task that was both from ownership and from Chicago Code is that we're going back in there with a thermally broken system with insulated glass. So, I think what we've tried to do is work with, this is already being done by a specialty glazer, of which only one exists in all of the United States, to create us these big of a pieces of glass in insulated glass. So we're kind of, not unlike that in the 1890s, kind of pushing the limits of materials and construction. In this case, though, it's structurally sound, structurally stable, upgraded with insulated glass, a thermally broken wall system, and the ADA accessibility and the retailer's accessibility. And putting those entrances, again, I understand, Commissioner Fair, your concerns. I think, it was kind of opportunistic, is we couldn't get a piece of glass that was 12 foot tall and 17 foot wide in insulated glass. So the doors became the kind of opportunistic, put them in a symmetrical location, and you also use them to reduce glass sizes, but tying that kind of setback into the original vertical mullions that were from the transom above. So yeah, there's a lot going on here, and it's a pretty challenging system overall.
Yeah, thank you for that. See, another hand is raised.
We also have a representative from ownership who may want to make a statement on this too.
Okay,
Hi, that's me.
hi there.
Hi guys, I own the building. My name's Eric Berger, and my father owned it before me. And Jonathan, I'm so with you on that question. And we spent a good over a year trying to figure out how to make it look as seamless as possible. But truthfully, ADA accessibility is one of our largest priorities, because we've now operate a theater that has, 650 people coming in every night through bay number 1 and 5. And if you guys remember, if you've ever been to the building, it was what was called the Artist Cafe for 61 years. And we intend to put another restaurant in there. And so having doors that are ADA accessible at that frontage for that restaurant, not interfering with access to the theaters, and then the 9-story artist studio building above it, it was a non-negotiable. And the thermal management and then the safety of the glass, once we opened up the wall and saw what was going on, it became a main priority.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioners, any other comments, questions?
I may have just one more, and I just didn't want to forget about the display frames. And just wanting to confirm, I think we saw in the drawings that were submitted, the idea is to try to match, I think, the bronze detailing from the original. I just wanted to make sure that I understood that. I saw some hands.
Yes.
Again, Len Karofsky, Getch Partners. Existing frames are bronze with a wonderfully high level of detail on them. We have local casters in Chicago who have the capability of recreating that detail and matching the original red brass alloy that's on them, and then putting a oxidized patina matching what we currently have out there. So yeah, we're blessed by a lot of resources here in Chicago.
Excellent.
If
Yeah,
I
just-
can add to that, we've spent like years trying to find these people, because the ones that were put in the 1950s are really kind of truly trash. And so we want to make it feel more consistent. And so the entire goal with all the renovations we're doing at this building is to make things feel more cohesive and historic and consistent, because through different ownership over the last 125 years, that was not maintained.
I appreciate that, Ms. Berger.
Thank you. I just have one question, or just curiosity. For the heights of the doors, how did you, I guess you're in a little bit of a predicament, like kind of matching the adjacent doors and, kind of playing with the scale, because it's nice to have bigger doors. So I just kind of wanted to hear the thought process on that decision, and if they're, that you're not matching the datum of the adjacent flanking doors.
Yes, Commissioner, I think we were sort of torn about that a little bit. The existing doors are lower than what we may want. So I think our intent was to match that of what was the kind of 1913 modifications, get to a code required door height of 7 foot. And in doing so, the upper transom and the lower glass break end up being the same dimensions as it currently exists.
That's only a 7-foot door shown there?
It's only a 7-foot door, and the existing is slightly below that.
Oh, okay. Wow. It looks like it's like an 8-foot door, but okay.
No, it's unfortunate.
Okay. Thank you. Any other discussion, commissioners? Okay, seeing none. I'd like to request a motion to adopt the staff recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner
Commissioner
Parker
Ponce.
has made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second, Commissioner Hughes.
Commissioner Hughes has seconded. Thank you, and we'll do the roll call. Commissioner Fair?
Yes.
Yes. Commissioner Rubin?
Yes.
Yes, I'm a yes. That's it. Thank you so much. This motion that carries unanimously. Congratulations, and good luck with the project. It's a wonderful building, and accessibility is very important. So we'll move on to item number 2. 919 North Michigan, the 2nd Ward, Alderman Hopkins, Palmolive Building, proposed changes to storefront display windows to include installation of new decorative mesh screens. Tyler Taylor, I believe, has the presentation today.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you. Can you see and hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. This is a proposal for the Palmolive Building. The Palmolive Building is an iconic, individually landmarked Art Deco skyscraper designed by Halliburton Root and built in 1928. The building is located on the southeast corner of the intersection of North Michigan Ave and West Walton Street. Louis Vuitton occupies the suite at the corner of Michigan and Walton on the first and second floors. They are expanding into the recently vacated second floor suite to the east and are proposing to make changes that will affect the appearance of the storefronts and display windows. At the West Walton elevation, 5 empty storefronts on the second floor and 1 on the first will be updated to be consistent with the design of the other storefronts. At the North Michigan storefront, changes will be made to the screens and window displays, but Louis Vuitton will not expand into any new storefronts. In this existing plan, the lighter tan color shows the front of house spaces and the darker color shows service and back of house. Elements to be removed are dashed in red. The proposed first floor will be reconfigured, but will not significantly change in footprint. The existing second floor is entirely occupied by back of house space at present, and the suite to the east is vacant. The second floor will be reconfigured to shift the back of house spaces to the south and east, allowing the retail space to occupy part of the second floor as well. A new 2-story opening with a stair will connect the ground and second level retail spaces. At the West Walton elevation, new screens matching the previously approved ones in the existing Louis Vuitton storefront windows will be added to the 5 bays on the second floor and to the vestibule at the first floor. For the bays containing back of house spaces on the second floor, the screens will make these spaces appear to be part of the retail from the exterior. The existing screens at the second bay from the corner will be removed from the storefronts and replaced with display windows with a gap on either side of the display window, allowing a clear view into the store. At the North Michigan elevation, which contains the main entrance, the existing screen will be removed from all storefronts except the one directly above the entrance. They will be replaced with display windows with a gap on either side of the main entrance, allowing a view into the store. The vestibule to the east that served as the entrance for the former bank tenant will become part of the Louis Vuitton suite. However, it cannot be occupied by retailer support space, and it is because it is part of the exit discharge for an egress stair serving other parts of the building. The spandrel glass panel above the vestibule will be replaced by one with signage displaying the LV monogram logo identical to the existing ones elsewhere on the elevation. The vestibule doors will be replaced with new doors that have frames and hardware in a dark metal finish to match the rest of the storefront, and opaque black glass matching the existing spandrel glass. Overall, this proposal will increase transparency and views into the store and is consistent with the previously approved storefront conditions. Staff recommends approval of the proposal with this condition. That no completely opaque film, partition, or other obstruction is to be installed within 3 feet behind the storefront glazing. The Miracle Mile Association is in support, has reviewed the project and is in support. Alderman Hopkins' office has also reviewed the project and is in support. We have Barry Winnick here of Winnick Architects to answer any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Tyler. Commissioners, any questions for Tyler before we hear from the architect? Seeing none, let's hear from the project architect, Mr. Winnick.
Hi, this is Will Lopez. As a matter of fact, I apologize, but Barry Winnick could not attend this meeting, but I am the associate of the office here, and I am working on this project as well. And Tyler, thank you for the presentation. This was a great presentation. You gave, you summed up. I just want to highlight one little area is that we are creating a more visible visibility on the second floor, because currently right now the second floor is being, if you go back to the Michigan Avenue, the slide, the Michigan Avenue. Yeah, there you go. So the existing store currently is walled off, as you can see on the left-hand side. So we are now trying to expose it to the Michigan Avenue so you can see into the store on the second floor. So we're just enhancing views to the street. And overall, we're trying to, well, we are going to be using the same exact mesh that got approved back in 2015 throughout the whole entire, storefronts. Yeah, that's it on my end.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions for the architect? Or seeing none, points of discussion? Seeing none, I'd like to request a motion to adopt the staff recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Commissioner Rubin.
Thank you, Commissioner Rubin has made a motion. Do we have a second?
Seconded, Commissioner Fair.
Commissioner Fair has seconded, and we'll do the roll call. Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes is yes, thank you. And Commissioner Ponce?
Yes.
Commissioner Ponce is a yes. I'm a yes. This motion carries unanimously. Congratulations.
Great, thank you.
Moving on to item number 3, 1050 West Wilson, the 46th Ward, Alderman Kappelman. The revised marquee design to the previously conditionally approved exterior rehabilitation of a historic theater into a new theater. And Joyce Ramos has the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A proposal for the rehabilitation of the historic theater into a new theater, including limestone facade repairs, new storefront entrance, new blade sign, and new marquee, was previously reviewed and conditionally approved by the Permit Review Committee at the November 2022 meeting. The applicant has since revised the design of the marquee and issued those changes through a permit application. The design of the proposed marquee is significantly different from what the PRC initially reviewed and is therefore back to be re-reviewed again by the committee. Shown on left is the design that was conditionally approved by the PRC in November 2022. In February of this year, the applicant submitted the project for permit. The design for the marquee was significantly different than what was reviewed by the PRC, which included LED signs flanking an illuminated sign on the front facade and the addition of exposed light bulbs around the perimeter of each sign, which staff felt was becoming a source of visual clutter, especially with the exposed bulbs already approved for the blade sign located directly above the marquee. Staff issued corrections with suggestions on how to improve the design, and in response to staff's comments, the architect submitted a rendering of a revised design shown here at right, and I'll go over those changes on the following slides. The revised design reduced the height of the marquee to 3 foot 1 inches high, reduced the number and locations of the bulbs, increased their spacing, and proposed for the illumination to be less intense in brightness and in a warm color. The LED panels are now limited to just the sides of the marquee, and the backlit sign on the front has been reduced significantly in width and is flanked with ornamental cast iron screens that are mounted over painted steel panels. Cast iron screens are also proposed to be installed at the entrance door surrounds, and historic preservation staff recommends that the pattern of the ornamental cast iron screens on the marquee and at the entrance be modified to be more simpler in design. The current design is an improvement to what was originally reviewed by the PRC in November 2022. As the height has been reduced, the amount of signage has been reduced, and the arrangement of the signs with the decorative metal panels gives the marquee a more varied and lighter appearance, which ultimately is more in keeping with the character and scale of the building. While there are more light fixtures, the marquee appears to be less bright with the warm color exposed bulbs and the smaller illuminated sign on the front elevation. Staff recommends approval of the revised marquee with the following conditions. Scaled and dimensions section details of the marquee as well as methods of attachment shall be submitted for review and approval with the permit application. 2, the design of the cast iron screens that flank the illuminated marquee sign at the entrance should be modified to be simplified in design. Dimension details, cut sheets, and a photo of a sample should be provided for historic preservation staff review and approval with the permit application. 3, each new sign shall be submitted under separate permit applications and should include an accurate elevation, section, and attachment drawings with sign dimensions, existing conditions shown, and materials and illumination identified. And 4, all other conditions of approval from the November 2nd, 2022 PRC review shall remain in effect. The Alderman's office has received a copy of this revised proposal, and Uptown United has reviewed the proposal and has no objections. On Monday of this week, which was after we submitted the packet last Friday, the architect submitted another revision shown here at left, which addresses the design for the cast iron screens, which is more simplified in design. If the committee is in agreement that this is a compatible design, the first part of condition number 2, right over here, can be deleted as shown here on this slide. And this concludes my presentation. If you have any questions about my presentation or for the architect and owner who are both here, please let us know. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joyce. Any questions for Joyce before we hear from the architect? Commissioners?
Just curious about what the simplified design for the cast iron screens is. I know we saw that detail on a couple of images in the drawing set. Just curious as to what the new design is.
Joyce, do you want to take that or you want to go to the architect?
Yeah, I mean, the architect submitted this updated rendering, which shows this, updated simplified design, which I think is more in keeping with the building. I haven't seen an actual sample of that, but yeah, I can let Matt Demers, the architect, speak to that.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes, Commissioner Hughes.
Sorry, I was just gonna say to Commissioner Fair's point, Joyce, is there anything written in here that would warrant them to submit samples to you guys before it's installed?
Yes, I think it's part of one of the conditions here. No, condition
I see
number
the cut
2.
sheets, but the
and a photo of the sample. I mean, they can also send it to me as well for me to review.
okay.
This is Matt Demers with Barker Nestor Architects. I'm the project manager for this project. And just to address the question that came up from Jonathan about what this simplified design is and sort of what you're looking at and the rationale behind it. Joyce and the rest of preservation staff expressed concerns about the iron tracery in the 2 flanking panels that we had proposed, not being original to the design and sort of looking a little too much like a simulacrum of the existing building instead of in keeping with the new construction of the canopy being recognized as something new, but sympathetic to and working within the proportions of the existing building instead of trying to mimic them. So what I devised for these flanking panels is a recessed, a series of recesses that have indirect up-down sconces. And the proportions and detailing of these recesses and the sconces is directly based on existing stone window detailing at the top of the flanking towers on either side of the existing facade. So the proportions of these elements, as well as their geometry, is based directly on the existing building ornament without attempting to replicate it directly. I think, you can't really see it there, but it's the detailing, the stone detailing directly underneath those 3rd level windows in the faux towers on either side. That's next floor up. Yeah, right underneath there, you can see these little squares inset with the vertical stone mullions. And so these new recessed panels are based on that instead, and then instead of being protruded ornament squares, it replaces that with a very slim indirect sconce that will add dynamism to the sides of the sign at night. And also during the day, just sort of cast very mellow shadows and be pretty low key during the day. So that was our proposal for something that would pay tribute to the existing features without attempting to mimic them or get in the way visually with the level of detail on the existing historic facade.
Thank you, Mr. Demers. Commissioner Hughes?
Yeah, thank you. I want to thank them as well because the explanation really helps kind of tie the design to the historic nature of the existing building. And I just want to applaud you guys because I remember the extensive discussion we had about the previous marquee that was proposed. This is such a much better fit all around dimensionally, how you guys have done the lighting underneath. This is exactly, what we strive for as a commission, to get signage and things like this that's really going to speak to the historic nature of the buildings. It doesn't ever have to be, something just plastered up or something that's temporary. It could be something that's added on later that becomes a beautiful addition to what's already there. And this is a great example of that. So kudos to you guys.
Thank you, Commissioner Hughes. We're also very happy with where this has gone. We consider it an improvement.
Excellent. Commissioner Fair, I think, was first.
I'll be super quick. Yeah, I definitely support the comments that Commissioner Hughes made. It's a really handsome design. With the change to the details at the marquee itself, just curious, or I guess wanting to confirm. I know there's was going to be some patterning at the threshold there. Yep. Assuming that that same attitude of simplifying is just going to carry through, and just wanted to confirm.
Yes, that's right. We removed the metal tracery from the threshold, the jambs of the storefront as well. And you can see there's just a simple brake metal clad, basically shadow line there. Depending on the final conditions, because we haven't actually demoed the existing storefront to see what's behind it, but we may be able to add a second shadow line, which I think would be nice for the visual scale, but we won't do anything sort of more visually dense than those very simple lines that catch the light being cast from inside and underneath the canopy.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Rubin.
Sure. Hi. Yeah, mine is also mostly a pretty quick compliment. I didn't weigh in the session we had last time we looked at this, but I talked a little bit with the staff afterwards. We pulled up a handful of theater marquees from the neighborhood and around Chicago to kind of look at as a comparison to try to figure out what was missing from the last one. And I do see a lot of kind of callbacks to different historic marquees, but also an attempt to really make this not just look like a recreation of a historic marquee, but something that is new, that blends into a neighborhood that's full of wonderful historic theaters and signage. So I just want to extend a congratulations that I can see that the work went into this. So nice work, nice work.
Thank you, Commissioner Rubin. Commissioner Ponce.
Hi, good afternoon. Same here. Compliments to the entire team on such a classy approach from the very beginning. And it's such a win-win relationship with staff and architects, and just congratulations. This looks like it truly belongs, looking at the original from this, I love it. I love it from step one to this point. Congrats.
Awesome. Thank you, Commissioner Ponce. All right.
So moved. I motion us to accept the staff recommendations.
All right. Let's make a motion then. Commissioner Hughes has made a motion to accept the staff recommendations. Do we have a second?
I'll second Commissioner Rubin.
Seconded by Commissioner Rubin. We'll do the roll call. Commissioner Fair?
Yes.
Commissioner Fair is a yes. Commissioner Ponce?
Yes.
Commissioner Ponce is a yes. I'm a yes. Excellent job. The motion carries unanimously. And thank you. Good luck. Look forward to seeing you.
If it's all right, this is Sean Mulroney. I'm one of the owners there. They've been working with Matt in this project. And I would say I'd like to thank the Landmarks Department and for working with us. I think we had the same basic ideas and have worked together something better than I anticipated. So I want to thank all of you who worked on this to get to this point. Excellent. Thank you so much. Awesome. All right. Thank you, everybody. Moving on to item number 4 on the agenda, 1046 North Wood, the first ward, Alderman La Spada, East Village District. It's the proposed construction of 2 new
to accommodate a new dwelling unit in the attic, and Tyler Taylor has a presentation.
Hi, yes. 1046 North Wood is a two-story workers cottage located in the East Village District. This project is a proposed renovation of the building that includes addition of a dwelling unit in the attic space and 2 new rooftop dormers. The outline of the proposed dormers are shown in the site plan. The front face of the north dormer is set back 24 feet from the front of the building and 3 feet from the north property line. The south dormer is set back further, 26 foot 11 inches from the front of the building, and is not set back from the south property line. The length of the building is 70.22 feet overall. At 24 feet, the proposed north dormer is set back slightly more than a third of this length. All work on the first and second floors affects the interior only. The existing attic is proposed to be built out to add an additional dwelling unit. As part of this scope, new dormers are proposed to provide full headroom at the stair, bathroom, and utility room. In addition to the dormers, the roof plan shows a total of 9 new skylights. 2 are located on the south and north facing sides of the roof in front of the dormers, and 1 is on the roof of the north dormer. The remaining 4 are located behind the proposed dormers. The slope of the proposed dormer roofs is the same on both sides. Both roofs will meet the plane of the main roof 1 foot below the main roof ridge, measured vertically. This is appropriate in order to lower the dormers as low as possible to reduce visibility and minimize the impact of the dormers on the roof line. In the roof framing plan of the latest drawings, the area of the new rafters shown for the dormers does not match the outline of the dormers as shown on the site plan. This should be revised to coordinate with the site plan. While the section through the dormer is accurate, the elevations are not consistent with the section as they show the dormer roofs meeting the main roof at the ridge, not rather than below it. These should be corrected to coordinate with the section. As you can see from the photo to the left, the front elevations do not show the roof soffit or non-historic metal canopy over the entrance. Neither will be affected by this scope of work, but should still be accurately drawn. The original permit application included replacement of the existing non-historic front windows, but this work was removed from the later drawings. Any new windows should match historic profiles, including trim such as brick molds. The proposed side elevations show the new dormers, but like the front and back elevations, the side elevations do not show the dormers with the roof level meeting the main roof below the ridge. These should be coordinated with the section. The proposed skylights are also not shown. These should be added to match the third floor roof and framing plans. The front chimney on the south of the building is not shown on the side elevations. Its approximate location has been added here since it's an important reference point. This should be shown on the final drawings. The adjacent building to the south is set back about 15 feet from the front, so more of the south roof is visible from the angle looking northwest, as shown in the photo to the left. Note the dormer will be located behind the chimney, so visibility of the dormer will still be limited. However, skylights on this portion of the roof would be visible. To the north, the side yard is narrower and the adjacent building is closer to even with the front, so visibility is more limited. From this angle, the north dormer will not be visible and visibility of skylights would be limited. The applicants commissioned a 3D model to provide a visibility study. In the left, the view directly across North Wood, the dormers are not visible. In the view to the right looking northwest, the dormer is visible. Note that we typically ask for views from the pedestrian perspective at eye level. The simulated camera angle for the view at right is significantly higher than eye level. From eye level, visibility of the dormer will be more limited than what is shown here and consistent with other dormers the committee has approved. This is a permit application. Staff recommends approval with these conditions, requiring revisions and more coordination between the drawings. The drawings as dated 4/3/23 should be revised as follows. The elevations on sheets 8, 9, and 10 shall be revised to show the highest point of the dormer roofs meeting the plane of the main roof not less than 1 foot below the main roof ridge measured vertically. The siding material for the new dormers shall be wood or fiber cement lap siding with a smooth finish. The proposed siding material must be identified on the permit drawings. 4 new skylights are shown on sheets A3 and A5 located in front of the proposed dormer. These should either be eliminated or staff shall review mock-ups of the proposed dormers on site to confirm whether they will be visible prior to resubmission of the permit drawings. All elevations shall be revised to show the proposed skylights. The roof framing plan on sheet A5 shall be revised to coordinate with the plan of the dormer as shown on the site plan, sheet T2. The roof framing plan on sheet A5 shall be revised to clearly note any new rafters required for the skylights will not exceed the height of the existing rafters. The existing roof framing in front and behind the new dormer shall remain in place, and if new roof framing is needed, it shall be sistered to the existing framing, aligning the tops of the new and existing members. A proposed roof plan shall be included with the final permit drawings. And finally, on sheets A9 and A10, where tuck pointing and masonry cleaning work is identified, the following note shall be added regarding new mortar to match historic mortar and color joint profile, texture, strength, and type. Dry grinding only, no sandblasting. Any chemical cleaning will require prior approval of chemicals by staff and environmental approval. Pressure washing less than 400 PSI with a fan tip brush. As I mentioned earlier, windows, the replacement of windows was not included in the latest set of drawings, but if that does move forward, should replacement windows be proposed, new windows at the front elevation are to be 1/1 double hung wood or clad wood windows with a brick mold matching a historic profile. Dimensioned large-scale sections through the head, sill, meeting rails, and brick mold are to be provided with permit drawings. The East Village Association has reviewed the project and is in support, and as well as Alderman Laspada's office has also indicated their support. The architect and owner is here and able to answer questions.
Thank you, Tyler. It's a lot of recommendations there. Any questions for Tyler? Commissioner Fair?
Maybe just more of a comment. Yeah, just thanking Tyler and the rest of the staff. I know I was so happy to hear you kind of walk us through this because I got a little lost through this set, just tracking what was what. So you answered a good deal of the questions that I had. Thank you for that.
Any other questions, commissioners? Seeing none, let's hear from the project architect. Is it Victor Cuevas?
Yes, he was on earlier. Are you still
I'm here?
Okay,
Yep,
good.
Yep. So I work for Luis Martinez Architects, and he couldn't be on. He was at the hospital getting some exams done. So I'm the project manager on here, and basically it's a regular dormer that we usually do. This one's in the Landmark. So there was extra notes and extra stuff that we had to do in my office. So all the recommendations that were recommended by Tyler, we'll be taking care of them. We have other minor corrections from the building department, and we'll coordinate both the landscape corrections and these corrections for the next review.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, questions for the applicant? Points of discussion? Seeing none. Oh, Commissioner Hughes. There's a lot of work that has to be done here.
Yeah, this is not good. And I don't mean to be, the bearer of bad news here or be the Debbie Downer on the call, but when the staff is recommending updates and changes to the drawings, it is so that we have the clarity to be able to make a decision. I don't feel comfortable making a decision today as a yay or nay with the standard of the drawings that were submitted. Like Commissioner Fair said, it was very hard for me to follow this as well. Thank you, Tyler, so much for clarifying a lot of this. But even with Tyler's clarifications, the drawings are still incorrect. And so when the builders are out on site, which drawings are they going to know to follow in order to construct this thing correctly and not have us back here in 6 months or whenever it's supposed to be done, us evaluating something being implemented incorrectly is my question.
Okay, I have a quick response to that. These recommendations is the first time I see them. And when the builder gets the set of plans, he only has one set of plans, and that's the stamp set from the city. We don't give out set of plans just to give out set of plans. We give out set of plans when it's actually approved by the city with the city stamp. That's all the builder's gonna be looking at, only one set of plans after all the corrections have been made and the permit has been approved by the city.
Is this project getting self-certified, or is this project going through a standard plan review with the city?
Standard plan review.
Okay.
Okay, my response to that is I understand that the approval process of the city, I'm very familiar with how architecture works in this town. My response to that is just because the drawings have a sealed stamp from the city doesn't mean all of the drawings are going to be correct. And so as architects, we have to make sure we hold ourselves accountable and do that ourselves before we submit to the city for approval.
I agree 100% on that.
Got maybe a follow-up question just about process. You know, Tyler or maybe someone from the staff could answer. So with an approval today, with these comments, you know, accepted, you know, this group would essentially be able to go and submit for their permits. Is that the correct process, or is there essentially another checkpoint with, you know, the preservation staff before, you know, moving things forward for permitting?
To be clear, this is already in the permit process. Initially, the scope was even different than what it is now. We've already worked with the applicants. When it's resubmitted, we will still have to review it again and compare what we are giving conditional approval here with what is actually resubmitted.
Thank you. Deanna.
Thank you, commissioners. Commissioner Hughes, I really appreciate your comments. It is not easy to really coordinate all this and understand the full scope of work and be able to make decisions when we are trying to determine the impact that the project will have on the building. So to the extent that anything moving through the permit process, we certainly are the gatekeepers, and we will make sure that the drawings are coordinated before we can release our holds on them. If you are uncomfortable making a decision because you do not have enough information on what the impact of the dormers will be, that is another consideration, and that is something that would need more, either a mock-up at the site or a more accurate set of renderings. That's a different consideration. So it's really, you know, just because they are in the permit process, the permit application is with us. And we would want to make sure all of this is addressed before anything moves forward.
Thank you, Deanna, for clarifying that. Commissioner Hughes?
Yes, thank you so much, Deanna. To answer Deanna's question, I don't think, for me personally, there's accurate enough information available to determine the impacts. As Tyler mentioned in his presentation, the angle of the camera on the rendering is considerably higher than the street level view for which we use to determine these types of decisions normally. And so that's my response to that. But if the staff feels like it's enough there for us to decide, I'm happy to take a vote.
Well, what we could do is we could make a motion to adopt the staff recommendations and see if other folks are uncomfortable with it. And if we are, then maybe we need to not approve the project today. So I'm gonna request for a motion to adopt the staff recommendations, assuming that, this has to keep going through the staff. They don't have to approve it through the permit process. They can continue to, deny it and have comments, and then there'll be a mediation period if these drawings can't be corrected. So with that, I want to put a motion out there to adopt the staff recommendations. Do we have a motion? Okay. Seeing none. No motions?
Commissioner Jacobowitz, I'll put a motion to adopt the staff recommendations. While I 100% agree with Commissioner Hughes, I also have full faith in the staff that they will keep this in order. And I would appreciate that the next time this comes through for review, that, the architects do take every recommendation and every effort to make this, a seamless review, because this is, it's really difficult to understand, to follow.
Well said. Thank you, Commissioner Ponce. Commissioner Ponce has made a motion. We have a second.
Maybe before I, can comment on that. I mean, I was just even trying to find the elevation of the dormers themselves on the drawings, and I admittedly have not, been with these drawings for very long, but it's just information like that that we got an understanding of the overall dimensions of the existing structure, and we're trying to render a judgment on the impact of some of the key scope items. I think some of the other things that jumped out is that we're not maybe totally sure on windows may come into play on this, so it's things like that have me it's difficult to render a decision on it, for me at least.
Thank you.
And maybe that is a question that I would throw out there. I mean, is that understood, what the elevation of those dormers actually are, knowing that there were some indiscrepancies about how those were meeting the existing roof line, just in general.
Commissioner, if I could just attempt that, the elevations we believe are not accurate. We are recommending that the elevation or the height of the dormers be as reflected in the section. And I think that is the reason for the condition. So can you move to that slide here? So it is 1 foot below the top, the ridge height of the main building. So that's the reason for our condition, that the rest of the drawings need to reflect this same condition. And also to make sure that when framing is performed, and the framing plan needs to really accurately represent that the remainder of the roof line of the existing building does not be removed during construction, that the existing rafters need to stay, and any additional framing needs to be sistered to it and aligned at the top, so the height and shape of the historic building does not change. And as you can see here, the skylights that are shown in this framing plan are not shown in the elevations. So therefore, we believe that the skylights in front of the dormers should be eliminated. So if you agree with those conditions and are comfortable making a decision, we would be reviewing all responses to drawings to make sure all of these are consistently addressed in every drawing. But if you still feel that it's really difficult to make the judgment call from the street level, then it would be good to direct what type of information would be useful to bring back to you to help with that decision. And, a mock-up is something that we typically do have in rooftop additions, which is a very simple temporary mock-up where we can take photographs, and that way you can have a bit more of a real interpretation of what that form would look like.
Yeah. I appreciate it.
That's right. Tyler, can you go to the rendering view, please? Go back one. So does this chimney get eliminated when the dormer is added?
That's not clear, but
Can you
it's
go
not
to the
noted.
next one? So it's not shown here. I don't know where the dormer is in relation to the chimney. And as mentioned earlier in my comments, this view from the sidewalk is significantly higher than eye level and not realistic to make the decision on whether or not the dormer is, what impacts visually the dormer is going to have.
Hi, could I, this is Stefan Macy, the owner of the property. If you don't mind, I'd like to add a little bit to this. Yes, the chimney is staying, and unfortunately it was not put into the rendering. We do have additional renderings at a lower level. We provided different renderings, kind of 9 different ones, one from the left, set straight, looking straight onto the property, and then one from the right at 3 different levels, from the eye view, and then about level on straight onto the property, and then one more from bird's eye view. So I believe the one on the right is more one just like a straight on, about like 20-foot elevated looking at the building. I could, if you would like, I could share on maybe link it here or share my screen and show a rendering if that helps from the lower view. But yes, the chimney, if you go back one picture, the chimney is pretty much lined up with that, with the building to the left. And if you go back to the beginning, you'll see that the dormer only starts about 5 or 7 feet or so. I'm not quite sure what the exact measurement is, but considerably behind that chimney. So from that point of view on the left, you would actually, the chimney would not be, the dormer would not be visible. But yes, also want to mention that Tyler's been super helpful in the process. I do realize there are a lot of recommendations and revisions. And if it is up to the committee to approve this conditionally, we will make sure to work with Tyler's team and ensure that everything is revised and up to the standards in order to make this project go through in a safe and responsible manner. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a very challenging project. These drawings are not accurate, and the more we talk about it, it does feel that we need to see this revised. To me, and that was Commissioner Hughes's point. And the more we talk about it, the more apparent it becomes. I'm curious what the commissioners think. I mean, I do think it's not really fair to approve this right now.
If they're not comfortable, it could be brought to a future meeting and reviewed again with better information.
I think
Yes. Can I put a motion forward for us to re-review this process, re-review this project at a future meeting, and for the owners to submit within that package eye-level views of the dormers for us to see in all correctly dimensioned drawings as the proposed dormers will be added. And also the pictured views from the sidewalk that Deanna has mentioned that has been shown in the past with a lot of previous dormer projects, if we could see those as well.
All right, there's a motion on the table.
Maybe a question to that motion, I am sensitive to what it means to wait a month to keep your project moving forward, even though there is a great deficit of information. I'm curious if there's been any precedent or any process that's in place where a, review that's more expedited, that involves, the commissioners weighing in, outside of the monthly meetings, if that's something that's ever been done before or possible. Just wanting to take that into consideration.
No, I know what I've seen in the past is perhaps letting it an approval with a condition that one of the commissioners, reviews the revisions, and so it doesn't come back to full commission, but one of our commissioners would be assigned to, kind of review the updated, plans.
And I just want to say too, when we've done that in the past, it has not been as severe of inconsistencies in drawings as this. It is usually to approve paint colors or to look at a new brick type that's going to be weaved into an existing, sure, it's not at this level of, because you also have to consider our time as well. Whichever commissioner is going to be reviewing this, it's going to be quite a lot to review a full design set. That's essentially what's happening here. Plus any other updates that need to be done at that point.
Is it possible for me to share a few images that give a better understanding of?
No,
I don't think so. No.
our Zoom isn't set up for that.
Okay.
But I wanted to mention the schedule shift. So the next meeting is actually May 4th in just 3 weeks.
Thank you. Deanna, did you have something that you wanted to add?
Sorry, I was actually just going to say the same thing. It isn't, luckily, it's only 3 weeks till the next meeting, and that would give the architect time to revise the drawings and have a mock-up where we can have a site visit.
Okay.
That's a good call.
Thank you. So Commissioner Hughes just made a motion.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Commissioner Ferris seconded the motion. Let's do the roll call to, really do a re-review. Go ahead. Who was that?
That was Commissioner Fair that seconded.
Okay. And let's do the roll call. Commissioner Rubin?
Approved. Yes.
And Commissioner Ponce?
Yes.
Yes, and I'm a yes as well. So we'll look forward to seeing a revised set of drawings and a mock-up as well as updated renderings in our upcoming meeting. Thank you. Moving on to item number 5, the final agenda item for today, 2052 North Orleans, the 43rd Ward, Alderman Nudston, the Mid-North District, proposed glass and metal panel enclosure around an existing rear steel stair on a corner building. And Tyler Taylor has a presentation on this.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for bearing with us. This is a proposal for 2052 North Orleans. Subject property is a 4-story red brick residential building in the Italianate style located at the southwest corner of North Orleans and West Dickens in the Mid-North District. It was constructed in 1889 according to permit records. The applicant is proposing to construct a new glass and metal enclosure around the existing rear open metal stair. A rooftop addition was approved by the Permit Review Committee in 2007 and constructed in 2008. As part of that work, the enclosed rear stair was replaced with the open steel stair here, or seen here, to provide egress from the 4th story addition. Since it was constructed, the open metal stair has had problems with snow and ice accumulation in winter. The ice creates slippery and unsafe conditions, and the moisture has caused the steel to corrode, requiring frequent maintenance. To prevent snow and ice accumulation on the stair, The applicant is proposing to enclose it with a new metal panel and glass enclosure. These elevations show the existing stair structure, which is a typical switchback stair with the stair runs parallel to the rear wall of the building for the first 3 stories, and then transitioning to a spiral stair from the 3rd floor landing up to the level of the roof and rooftop addition. The proposed enclosure is partially transparent to let natural light into the porches and stair. On all sides, a copper or stamped metal spandrel panel covers the edge of the landings. The space between the panels is infilled by multi-pane glass set in metal mullions with a grille pattern. At each landing, a portion of the enclosure is open to the exterior to meet code requirements for an exterior egress stair. At the west elevation, except for the penthouse level, the enclosure between the landings is partially infilled with fiber cement panels rather than glass. This is the elevation that faces the adjacent building to the west. In these elevations, shading has been added to denote the metal, glass, and fiber cement for clarity. At the time the stair was constructed, only the guards extended up beyond the roof level and did not extend beyond the parapet, so the roof line of the building is not impacted. The new enclosure would extend 4 feet above the height of the existing rear parapet. To assess whether the enclosure would impact the roof line of the building when viewed from the street, a full-scale mock-up was constructed by the applicants and viewed on site by commission staff. While the stair is fully visible from a short section of North Orleans to the east, the top of the enclosure was minimally visible from the east along North Orleans and not visible at all along West Dickens. So the mock-up is actually in place in this photo and it's not visible from this angle. The proposed change to the stair is at the rear and only affects the structure of the stair with no structural impact on the historic building. The design of the enclosure uses materials that are consistent with those on the building and in the district. However, it is clearly distinguished from the historic building. The proposed enclosure will not adversely affect the building or the district, and staff recommends approval with these conditions. First, the metal spandrel panels shall have a dark finish and panel detail panel details and material type and finish shall be provided with the permit application. And second, window details for the glass windows shall be provided with the permit application. The Alderman Knudson's office and the Mid-North Association both received drawings, but comments have not been received from either. The architect is here and able to answer questions, or I hope he's here still.
Thank you, Tyler. Any questions for Tyler before we hear from the architect on this one? Seeing none, let's hear from the architect, Adam Lyons, if you are here.
Yep, there is.
See him.
You are on mute, just in case you.
Mr. Lyons, you're on mute.
Yes, this is Adam Lyons, architect. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, just want to thank the board for your consideration today. Tyler, I know this, we worked back and forth for quite a period of time, and even from back when we did that first mock-up, I think we've tried to design this tastefully, protecting the users of the stair. Obviously, again, it sees a lot of elements which supposed to be dangerous at times, but in any event, the enclosure is one which we feel is architecturally appropriate, not very obtrusive at all. We did hire a codes consultant to make sure that that the enclosure itself was code compliant, and that was verified. We will follow the staff recommendations and submit the spandrel panels materials as needed, and the window details as requested. Again, just thank the board for your time and consideration, and hope this goes smoothly. That's pretty much the gist of things.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lyons. Commissioners, Any questions for the architect? Or any about the project? Points of discussion? Seeing none. I'd like to request a motion to adopt the staff recommendation for the project. Do we have a motion?
So moved, Commissioner Hughes.
Thank you, Commissioner Hughes has made a motion. Do we have a second?
Seconded, Commissioner Rubin.
Commissioner Rubin has seconded, and we'll do the roll call. Commissioner Ponce
Yes.
is a yes. Commissioner Fair.
It's a yes for me as well.
Excellent. I'm a yes as well. And the motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. That brings us to the end of the business today. Thank you. Well, first, there being no further business, I'd like to request a motion to adjourn. Do we have a motion?
So moved,
All right.
Commissioner Hughes.
Thank you, Commissioner Hughes. Do we have a second?
Second, Commissioner Ponce.
Seconded by Commissioner Ponce. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for a long day. Thank you, staff, for wonderful presentations, and everybody have a great rest of your month. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thanks.